Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Caroline Woods, and today we're talking about ways to invest in infrastructure in order to achieve a sustainable future. WM is North America's largest comprehensive waste management environmental solutions provider. And joining us for this conversation is the company's Chief Sustainability Officer, Tara Hemmer. Tara, thanks so much for joining us. Really great to have you here today.
So great to be here and really appreciate the time, Caroline.
So Tara, let's kind of start high level, kind of set the stage for us. What are some trends you're seeing develop in the ways that companies do business with regards to sustainability?
You know, it's really so fascinating if you think about what's happened over the last 3 to 4 years. There have been so many rapid shifts that have occurred in such a short period of time. And it's really forced companies to be pretty nimble and have to adapt really swiftly. And some of the trends that we're seeing in our space and many companies are seeing are shifts in the supply chain, how and where you procure your goods and services, where they're coming from, how to make them more resilient. A whole lot of focus on circularity and really thinking through how products are put on shelves and how you get them back into new products. And a lot of that is being driven by demographic shifts. If you think about millennials having increasing purchasing power, but also really they're rapidly engaging in the workforce. And then, a lot of shifts in where things happen. If you think about e-commerce, a lot of the buying that we do comes to your home. I know that's true for me. It's probably true for a lot of folks out there.
Me too.
And we need to think differently. Companies need to think differently about their models. And the other thing I would say that we've definitely seen is that businesses are clearly leading and governments are helping to accelerate some of these trends, but businesses are leading, and it's coming from pressure that businesses are seeing from various stakeholder groups.
Well, I'm curious on that front, where are most companies on their sustainability journey, if you will? How much progress have they made?
This is unfortunately or fortunately, it depends on your view. There's no one size fits all approach. I think every company is at different points in their sustainability journeys. And, at WM, we have a really diverse customer base. So the way to think about us is we service the pizza shop on the corner. We also service some of the largest national accounts and big brands in North America. And if you think about some of the large, big brands, many of them have been on their sustainability journey for quite some time and are continuing to evolve how they're approaching sustainability. There's a lot greater focus, certainly coming from investors, but also employees and customers. And then there are other companies that might be in the middle of their journey. They might have some of the initial frameworks in place, but they really need to evolve and adapt. And then, we're seeing even smaller companies as they're emerging, they need help on how to approach, how do they build a structure, what are the things that they need to focus on, what's important to their business. So I think the important point, though, is that every company is on a sustainability journey, just everyone's at different starting points.
And what are the keys to achieving a sustainable future?
I think the key is, it used to be, if you went back 10 or 20 years ago, sustainability was sort of a sideshow and not the main event. And now what we're seeing is sustainability is embedded into business strategy. If you look at world-class companies today, sustainability is a part of how they're going to grow their businesses and is being discussed in the C-suite and in boardrooms. And I think that's something that's only going to be amplified in the future.
Yeah, it definitely seems more like a need to have than a nice to have at this point. So let's talk about some of the infrastructure investments that companies really should be making at this point.
Well, every company is a little bit different. I can speak to a little bit about what WM is doing, and I think it's relevant because it ties into how our customers and many companies are thinking about sustainability, certainly when it comes to the environment. And there are two big key themes that we're tracking, and it's decarbonization and climate impact, and then circularity. And so for us, we looked at that and said, okay, circularity. Well, WM is North America's largest residential recycler. We handle over 15 million tons of recyclables each and every year. We know that customers are increasingly asking for recycling as a service. And we also know that manufacturers are looking at ways, how can they put products and products on the shelves that are made out of more recycled content? And so we took a look at our platform and said, you know what? We feel like there's a moment here where we can invest over $1 billion over a 4-year time horizon to build recycling infrastructure across North America, develop higher quality products, and work with this broader ecosystem of companies to help drive their broader goals. And so I'll give you an example of how this is coming to life. You know, we're a large routing and logistics company. We pick up materials at people's homes, and your driver might show up to your house to pick up recyclables at the curb and might have a plastic water bottle in there. Well, we move that plastic water bottle to an end market where that company creates a thread, and that thread goes back into our employees' uniforms. That's one way where we're driving circularity for WM, but that thread also can go into textiles and apparel that is made from a sustainable product. Another great example is on the renewable energy side, where we're investing over $1.2 billion in renewable natural gas infrastructure. And this is such a great story where we're taking landfill gas that comes from our assets and cleaning it and turning it into a pipeline quality fuel that really offsets fossil fuel usage. And we know that that is a key focus of companies moving forward. I think so many different companies that we engage with today are looking at how they can make an impact depending upon what their business is in those lanes.
Yeah, so no doubt you're achieving your sustainability initiatives, but I want to talk more about how you're helping customers achieve theirs, both in terms of what are their goals at this point and what are the biggest barriers that they're facing.
Well, it's interesting when we engage with customers, and I would say right now we are in the era of collaboration and partnership. There are big, meaty things that we all have to tackle, and the days of going it alone are over. So we really try and take a partnership approach to our customers to really understand. So, what is your business? What is important to you? How are you thinking about your emissions? How are you thinking about the materials that you manage at the end of their life? And how can we help you get those materials to their next best use? And because we work in so many different segments, we work in healthcare, we work in retail, we work in manufacturing, each one of those entities, it's going to be slightly different based on what their business is. And so it's important to understand what the broader business drivers are and what their sustainability goals may be. I can say almost every company today that does have sustainability goals is thinking about climate and climate impacts and how they can make an impact and hopefully turn that from a risk to an opportunity long term.
So, when it comes to infrastructure investment, of course, there's the physical structure that people can invest in, the supply chains, the technology, say, but then there's also the organizational structure. How important is the people component in terms of achieving some of these goals?
The people component is absolutely critical. I say all the time here that sustainability is a team sport. And most chief sustainability officers have very small teams, but you really need to leverage the power of your organizations, whether it's within the sales function, the ops function, communications, to rally the broader organization around those bigger goals. And I think that's really important as we think through where we're going to be headed, because we need to figure out how to pull together those groups. The second piece is, as we're thinking about the physical infrastructure, we also need to recognize that roles are naturally going to change. And so an example of that I can bring to life for you is when we're investing in material recovery facilities, and this is with top-notch technology. While we might have had a technician who was working on maintaining some of the, I would say, bigger nuts and bolts of one of those plants, now we're transitioning into much more automation, and it's a much more highly skilled role. And so we need to be partnering with organizations to think through, how do we train people externally so that we have a pipeline of talent that can flow into our company. And these, there's a lot of talk about green jobs, and a lot of the jobs that we have at WM are green jobs, but there's also a bit of a skills gap, and we need to be mindful about how do we build those skills within the communities where we're siting these plants, and then also how do we make sure that we train folks within the company to continue to evolve these roles long term. It's definitely a journey.
On that note, kind of building on that, how are you utilizing technology? There's, of course, a ton of talk, especially over the past few months, about AI. How big of a part does AI play, or will AI play?
Well, there's a whole host of different technology types that we're using throughout our business. A couple of quick examples. We do use basically it's called an NIR, but it basically is an eye at our material recovery facilities that looks for materials and can push them in different directions. We use, in a small number of our facilities, robotics at the end of our lines. And then we're constantly using machine learning, which is what we like to call it, in our different aspects of our business. And so that really transcends all aspects of our business, where we're using machine learning on some of our trucks for us to look at different materials that our customers might be tipping and putting out at the curb, and then we put into our trucks to make different decisions as we move forward. And that also goes into our routing and logistics algorithms. Technology is definitely going to play a role as an accelerant on some of these trends, and investments in technology are critically important to how we transform our company and other companies, I'm sure.
All right, so we're talking about investing in technologies and investing in training, upskilling your staff, and in infrastructure. So I'm just curious, how big of a barrier is cost? Because one would assume that sustainable infrastructure is probably more expensive than conventional infrastructure, at least in terms of, until you can get to bigger scale.
I think that, the answer I would give to that is it depends, because you used to have this sort of trade-off of, doing something in a sustainable way might have cost more money, and folks may not have wanted to do it because of the cost barriers and implications. What we're seeing right now is there are so many different aspects of our business and other companies' businesses where sustainability can be, and investments in sustainability can be, a differentiator from a cost perspective, and then can also drive environmental improvements and deeper relationships with customers. And so investing in different technology types, it's about really looking at where you have those marriages of those three things, and how you can bring them to market in a meaningful way where you're going to drive value and differentiation for your company. I know that's something that we look at very closely at WM. We want to make sure that we're making those right investment decisions. And we do look at the cost, but we look at the impact.
Yeah, let's talk a bit more about the impact, because of course there's the greater good component of this, but then there's also the greater profits component. So how should businesses be thinking about the return on investment from some of these infrastructure investments?
I think that, you have to look at it of course, in a short, mid, and long-term basis. And we talk a lot about where the world is headed and where customers' trends are headed. And it's one of the reasons why, we're focused very aggressively in investing in recycling infrastructure, because we're looking at the trends that our customers are sharing with us. They're saying to us, we want recycling as a service. Our employees are asking for recycling as a service. They're putting more sustainable products on shelves. There are some stats out there that certainly younger generations will pay more for sustainable products increasingly that they're putting on shelves, and they care and will sort of march with their feet if they don't see those things happening. So you definitely have to invest in infrastructure for the future so that your business is going to be relevant long term, but also be mindful of what that return structure should look like. In our renewable energy business, this is a great example where we have big companies who are looking for alternatives to fossil fuels, and renewable natural gas is one way where you can take a fuel that's made from a renewable source, and you may not be able to transition immediately away from natural gas, but if you can replace it with a renewable natural gas, it's a huge opportunity. And these are investments that we're making that have returns and paybacks within a 2 to 3 year time period. And the trends that we're seeing, clearly there's going to be strong demand for these types of products longer term. So you have to sort of look at where the near term, midterm, and long term opportunities and layer them. It's certainly a mosaic. It isn't necessarily a one size fits all approach.
So many of these targets in terms of sustainability are longer term, especially ones that have been set by policy. So it might be, if it's 2050, it could be multiple leadership teams that are working to achieve those goals. How optimistic are you that businesses can actually achieve some of those longer term targets?
The reason why I'm optimistic is one of the things that I've seen fundamentally change recently is so many companies, when I talk to my peer group in the CSO space, you're seeing companies embed these sustainable practices into their businesses. And there's clear accountability, there's clear, metrics associated with how business leaders inside companies are being measured against those goals. And it's certainly a topic of conversation, not just at the top of organizations, but it's really moving into the middle. And as we all know, for anybody who's ever led a company, that's where the magic happens, motivating the folks who do the hard work each and every day. And seeing that become much more entrenched inside organizations is a strong sign. For my team, I can tell you we get a lot of phone calls and pull from the business where we used to have to be pushing information and sort of being the driver. We're really starting to see the opposite today. And, leaders and managers are coming to us and saying, can you help us with this? We want to figure out how to approach this problem. And that really gives me a lot of hope and optimism. You're absolutely right, though. This is the ultimate ultra marathon when you look at some of the time horizons that we're dealing with. And so we need to make sure that we're building organizations that can respond to that longer term.
Well, Tara, somehow we're almost out of time. That went so fast. So with just about 30 seconds left or so, final thought or a key takeaway that you really want audience members to walk away with today?
I would say, just that while this work in the sustainability space can seem hard and challenging, there are entities out there, like WM, who can help you solve your broader customer challenges, your toughest problems. We're in this era of partnership. I truly believe, some of the issues that this world is facing environmentally, from a business perspective, the way that we can tackle them is to do that together. So find a good partner and, start doing the work now.
I think that's a great place to end it. Tara, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Caroline.
And for me too. Thanks so much to WM as well. And to, of course, all of you for watching.